Hello and good evening and welcome to Politics 101. A little late start. We had some hiccups and uh, I think we have it sorted out. So we are on. We are on and we're ready to roll.
It's a song I wrote in 1989. And it also speaks about alienation. I hope this song would have gone away, but it seems to just be coming back and coming back again. It's a song I call 1990. So from the ghettos of Trinidad to the ghettos of LA, the same story. Nuclear warhead, do I see it torn down? And there's an army in retreat. I see the old colonials of Europe now become united. And that word, perestroika, it fills the streets. I see the eagle sitting on the shoulder of the bear. Or maybe it's the other way around. Is this the calm before the hellfire? Or is our tomorrow really heaven bound? But 1990, the blood still flows in Bogota, and from Beirut to Johannesburg, the river don't stop. 1990, third world children still wander in their boats, in their jungles, in their deserts, until they draw. It is strange. The more we change, the more we rearrange. Everything just seems the same as we move into the next century. 1990, please make a liar of me. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, 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 yeah, yeah. There is a black man on the run through a lonely Beijing street. There he goes. My God, he's running again. This time through Brooklyn, Howard Beach. And there he runs again through the streets of Soweto and Bensonhurst. And I'm saying, Lord, so the story goes. And the ghostly man from the past, they call him Selma, Alabama. He just shrugs and says, Deja vu, I suppose. 1990. Will our children stand firm? Or will they keep a running and the running and the running till the end of time? 1990. Will hands of love ever reach out? Or will they be there just to strengthen the crime? It is strange. The more we change, the more we rearrange. Everything just seems the same as we move into the next century. 1990, please make a liar of me. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. LA's burning down. It reminds me of Harlem and what's in the 60s. Same problem, same country, and king. King is still the name. People shouting power, power to we the people, and equal rights and justice is still the game. I remember over 25 years ago, America stood up and said, this won't happen no more. Now you tell me, what have we become? Will the beast always defeat the beauty? Is this land just another house of the rising sun? 1990, will we see a tomorrow where our children will truly be free? 1990, is it joy, is it sorrow, as we move into the 21st century? I'm saying it is strange. The more we change, the more we rearrange. Everything stays the same as we move into the next century. 1990. Make a believer of me.
David Michael Rudder, King David as we call him in the Calypso world, one of the classics, 1990. 1990. We are almost quarter way into the 21st century. And those questions raised by David Rudder in that song, which he wrote as the Berlin Wall came down, he sang it in 1990. So he sang it a decade before the end of the last century. So in a sense, it's 35 years. And those questions remain with us. Must the beast always defeat the beauty? We in Guyana understand those questions very well. The more we change, rearrange, everything seems the same. But we press on. We press on. I'm always hoping that David Rudder would find it with him, find the strength to do a sequel to 1990, to answer the question, did the 21st century make a liar of him or a believer? David, of course, is now suffering from Parkinson's, but he's still active, still active. Those questions are relevant questions. Good evening. Dr. Jeffrey is here with us this evening, and we are going to be addressing some of the pertinent issues, some of the topical issues. So please share the link, share the live, some of you will say, share the link, some of you will say, let everyone know that we're on and we're ready to roll. We had some hiccups at the beginning, some technical thing. System didn't want to go, but eventually we are here. We are here. I'd like to welcome all of you, wherever you're joining us from, in Guyana, whether you're joining us from the countryside or the towns, cities, whether you're joining us from in the Caribbean, our memories, our solidarity, still goes out to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the people of Grenada, Petit Martinique and Carriacou. Petit Martinique and Carriacou, of course, got hit the hardest, and it was the Grenadines Islands. St. Vincent's got hit badly, but the Union Island and a couple of the other smaller islands in the Grenadines, our prayers and our solidarity go out to them. It's good to see our government um, stepping up. Dominica government announced today that they are giving $1 million EC dollars to both Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Prime ministers of some of the Eastern Caribbean countries visited Grenada last week, and they are in St. Vincent today. The question of global warming stares us in the face, and we are in the middle of it. So here we are. All of you joining us from North America, that troubled country, North America, the United States of America. Welcome to you joining us from Canada. And of course, our brothers and sisters were coming to us, with us from Europe. Some of you here are from Paris. I see Paris in the house. United Kingdom here in the house. I know it's late at night there, but welcome to everyone. And if you join us from other parts of the world, the people here right in our on our borders, the people in Suriname and French Guyana. Some of you are joining us from Brazil. Good evening to you. Well, we're ready to roll. Let's bring in our guest and get going with our interview. Dr. Jeffrey, good evening.
Good evening, David, and good evening to your audience.
And lots of news, international, regional, but of course we will pay attention here to the news here in Guyana. Last Sunday, because this Sunday is this week. Last Sunday, your column, Future Notes, you addressed the question. You titled the column "Nigel Hughes and the Context of Fear." You of course congratulated Nigel for assuming the leadership of the Alliance for Change, and you quoted from his 2014 address, when he had become the chairman of the party. But you zeroed in very quickly on the question of conflict of interest. You didn't use those terms. In fact, let me read what you said. However, if truth be told, apart from the general question of his prioritizing of national and personal interest, I find it difficult to understand how Mr. Hughes cannot grasp that it is untenable for the leader of one of the leading political groupings that in all manner of ways has sworn to act in the best interest of Guyana to be in a position where he could have information that one of his clients, the example usually given is ExxonMobil, that has become a major factor in Guyanese life. But there is also Nigel Dharamlal, etc., is behaving, meaning how Mr. Hughes is behaving in a manner inimical to the interests of Guyana and cannot warn the country and its colleagues about that possibility. So you're saying it's untenable for him to be leader of a party and to be in a situation where he cannot warn his country and his colleagues about the possibility that his client may be working in a way inimical to Guyana. What drove you there?
Well, what drove me there was generally the discourse in Guyana that about who was in conflict of interest or not. From my standpoint, and you remember you made the point that I indeed in our discourse 2 weeks ago I said ideologically where Guyana should actually go in terms of you mentioned Nigel's 2014 article or whatsoever when he spoke to the need for shared governance. He said it. The parties with the that wins the most should get the most seats and all of that. And he said, but then you invite that should be part of the government process. Only not a month ago or so, he spoke also to supermajorities. He said that Ghana, you should introduce supermajority to put a reigning in the presidency and all of that. So from that ideological position, I think, yes, we understand each other. But I cannot, that's what I said, I cannot understand. If you are the leader of a major party and you are saying, oh, I will have no discussion about Exxon. I would not be involved in our discussion about Exxon. In fact, it's impossible. It's impossible for you not to be involved. Because if you set up a committee to come forward with a position on Exxon, you are the leader, you are the chairman. What are you going to say then? It's impossible. And that's why I put Exxon out, because Exxon, can be very emotional with how much has been said about it. I said, what's about Dharamlal? And that issue about whether or not he committed thing and rape and all, is a big national issue, but it is Nigel's client. Now, so what? They're going to set up another committee that he will say nothing. He has to be part of the discourse. From what? If we go out there now as party members, let me say as part, I'm not a member of the Alliance for Change anyway. I'm there. If we go out there without his discourse, without his contribution, and we made a decision and come back to the general to implement those decisions, then what happens? And he knows they're wrong. Or he sees something in it. He's the leader. He's got to lead. He just can't say, I'll carry on and whatsoever happen. So whether, from our standpoint, the major problem here is when you want to get into these positions, you must determine whether you have to mix some determination, the kinds of clients you will have. I see that is not a big thing. You want to get in this position, and I think he's more than a worthy person to get into the position. But then can't get a cake and eat it by the looks of things. So that's what I'm saying. You have to determine your client. And that's why I put Exxon aside and spoke of Dharamlal. He's not going to speak on that issue too. They're going to have to set up another committee. So it is... that's my position on this matter. It's an important position because as you said, the AFC is one of the three large parties in this country. I'm sorry, WP hasn't got to that.
We're fourth. We're fourth. My feelings will be hurt. My feelings will be hurt. We're fourth. We're fourth.
But you can't walk away from a leadership. If you are a leader, if you are it as maybe some minor official in the thing, you can be placed in a committee and say, don't talk. But when you're a leader, you have to speak at the end. You have to. You can't make no policy. You can't sit there as your party making policy that are wrong and say, well, I'm a client. It doesn't make sense. At least to me, it doesn't make any sense.
But here is what you said.
Yeah.
Hopefully, some sensible way out of Mr. Hughes's dilemma can be found for his kind of political contribution is vital to a polity in which both major ethnic groups, African and Indians, that make up about 80% of the population, dread losing to the People's National Congress or the People's Progressive Party, respectively. And how is there? Do you have any suggestion? Well, in a public that you can say in public, how youths can get out of this what you call the dilemma?
In truth, I mean, I just suggested the only suggestion that he obviously does not want is that he's got to make it anytime any lawyer want to be in these kinds of position and want to do this must make a decision as to the, remember I said in the article too
about Ralph and Coran.
About Ralph. Now Ralph went to the Central Committee, Central Executive and PPP, and he quarreling. They said, boss, if you want to become presidential candidate, you have to give up the thing in your law firm. You can't do it. About Ralph had his children at school and all of that, pay for them. Who gonna pay for this? Because so he walked. He walked. And he had a good chance as anybody else. So that's why it boiled down to. It boiled down to the simple that when you want these kinds of position, you got to make a decision of what you will give up. If not only in terms of law, but in terms of anything you're having to do with governments and international organizations.
So are you suggesting he should walk from his law firm?
No, I am suggesting he must have the group major shares in his law firm. And I don't know, Donald Trump had to do a whole lot of jiggery-poogery, which everybody says he was still dealing and daddling. But the point is that I think he has to, give up dealing, not only with with Exxon particularly. Although that is even not a clear-cut case. Because even if he said he worked from the law firm and still own it, they will still, and he got the knowledge, people going to still be asking him. But he wouldn't have any excuse then to come to the public and say to the public, I cannot speak on this issue. He will have to, and he will have to live with that as history of what he said then.
He has been making some statements addressing the fundamental issue that you've raised. He's not shied away from them.
No.
Are you satisfied that he's moving in the right direction?
I don't know what that direction is since I think he's in the same place. That he essentially is in the same place, and Exxon is right for the most part. Niger is not in conflict with Exxon. He made a position quite clear. And Exxon can't stop people from working for them just because they become have some political position necessarily. Indeed, they must be like you to have a position, a political position, because you know Exxon already.
No,
Exxon have a great history. But you just talk about the environment where Exxon apparently be paying people as other thing to do, as other jiggery poogery with the environmental research. And so, I mean, so, you know, it's a hell of a questionable thing. I mean, well, let's leave it there for the time.
for the time being. Understandably, Barra Jagdeo jumped on the issue. Um, his problem was quite different from what we are talking about. He seems to be concerned that Exxon might be shifting loyalty from his government to somewhere else because he said that Exxon could give Nigel Hughes money. Nigel Hughes can bill Exxon for work done, which actually wasn't done, and that money can then go to use his campaign. Clearly, Jack Dio knows a thing or
That's
two
stupidity.
about
That's
how this
stupidity.
thing
If Waxaw want to give Nigel money, he gotta do it through that way to end up in the income tax problem. He just ain't give him.
uh,
I mean, that Exxon was gonna bill nobody to give anybody money. I mean, what we hearing, you know? I mean, there are so many ways to do that. Will you do so irregular billing to end up with all sort of income tax and then the American system? And whoa, isn't that better you just give him? I mean, there are numerous ways to give people money if you want to. So that's not. And
but
Bart knows that.
do you discern a concern by Jack Dio and to some extent the PPP on this recent development with Nigel Hughes becoming leader of the
Yeah,
PSC?
Uh, Bart has always took a hard line on Niger. You remember, he was the one that had said that in under his watch, Niger would never become senior counsel.
Right.
You remember? So there's a hard line there from then. And I don't know what it's based on. So I am not willing now to say it's based on politics. My problem is with though, when you came to office, you give us at the people senior council, you also did not give Nigel.
You mean the coalition government?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am saying to you, yes. I mean, so that this thing with the Nigel going on a long time, this thing got nothing to do with the politics, because I don't think it makes much difference to anything. I don't think that you have the kind of, in my research, as a public opinion to make that a big shakes.
You went on in the column to talk about winning and losing a democratic election
Yeah.
in ethnically homogeneous societies such as Barbados and Jamaica does not carry this life and death um, situation, which is a major reason why electoral manipulation is endemic and so widespread in Ghana. I want to read that again. Winning or losing a democratic election in ethnically homogeneous societies such as Barbados or Jamaica does not carry this life and death situation, which is a major reason why electoral manipulation is endemic and so widespread in Guyana. So much so that a recently concluded study by the International Republic Institute, which was contracted by the PPP government, found that only about 22% of the voting population are certain that the various governments have been legitimate. I want you to talk about the linkage, expand on that linkage between the uh, heterogeneous societies and electoral manipulation.
Yes,
Because
obviously.
because you way back, um, I remember was the first person to raise the alarm about PPP's manipulation. And I don't think a lot of us took you seriously because we were all weaned on the thing that the PNC does rig election. And so therefore, when you rang that bell more than a decade ago, you weren't taken as seriously. And what happened in 2020, in a sense, vindicated what you had been warning us about. But over to you.
Yeah. In homogeneous societies, as I've argued, and that's why my article today, I show Britain. When the regime get out totally out of hand, blaming other people for what is happening in Britain, where the economic situation has fallen, all of that. Britain is 81% white, what we will call European white. So they have a strong and they got a long history of democracy too. So they have that public opinion came in and throughout the conservative government. One of the most important things, if I miss anything, you want me to answer, but let me tell you this. One of the most important things, I started my article this week with the way I ended last week. One of the most important things that we talk about a majority rule. Democracy is not about majority rule. Democracy is about an agreed upon system of majority rule. If you go to America, you will see that, oh, look, Trump or Hillary got more votes than Trump, and look where they are. Look what happened. Yeah, Trump won the election. If you go to Britain now, the Labour Party only get 34% of the votes. 34 and get nearly 80% of the seats. Yet they are legitimate. They are legitimate because that was an agreed upon system that we will run. It's about rule of law. The law said this is fine. It is not so much about majority rule that, in this blanket kind of a way. It's majority rule depends upon what we have accepted to be majority rule. As Nigel said, you can go to Suriname and the president needs 2/3 majority to be president in the parliament. He just don't win the election and be president. He gotta get 2/3 majority in the parliament. So that is that is a major problem with TRC. We just think it's a blanket thing about majority, and that's why you need constitutional change. And the situation in Britain, I think, has clearly demonstrated too that it is the British structure. It is the structure of governance. Now, you see what the Conservative Party and all of them are saying. They're saying, and everybody and Labour now seem to agree that it's the democratic deficit that has caused this thing, not Brexit as they run to. In this Brexit to make them poorer. But because you have a whole lot of, it's competitive politics and people get emotional about all of that. So effectively, they are not saying we have got to get rid of the House of Lords, not the Conservatives, the Labour, Gordon Brown, but they are on the thing that you need radical constitutional change because the system is broken. Well, I've argued this week that the system was always broken in Ghana, but we want to stay with the same old British majoritarian rule that we always had. It's amazing. It's like if we are looking for punishment. Yet Nigel came up with some thoughts since 2014 and so on that I said, you wanted me to do a link,
the electoral manipulation.
Oh, come on. We are all minorities now.
Yes.
So what I mean, if you want, it's now the electoral manipulation This has been going on since about 2006 in the PPP, I suppose, when they start realizing that the votes are leaving the country and so on and so on. But it is not simply electoral manipulation, so to speak. It is all the other things that you need to do to get people to believe that you are this multi-ethnic society, this multi-ethnic party. So what you're doing, you're buying votes, you're creating, you are going down. Imagine you will want to try a thing like I think I might write about Agda. I've been there for 30 years, and you setting up some, purveyors of nonsense, and they are and saying that is like they go put on a free concert. Don't pay for all this free concert. It's us. You not can't pay teachers, but you're gonna pay for free concert to get to try to win black people over. Now you're not gonna win them over. They might go to your free concert.
Right.
But you're not going to. This has proven for years it's not going to happen. They might not even pack up your free concert, but you're not going to carry them there. This is in slavery story. Everybody tried that. The British even wrote about it sometime. You're not gonna do it because the ethnic situation is too poignant in our country. So all of these things. So it's not just attempting to, you don't want to talk about new list. You don't, nothing. Why you don't want to talk about new list? I mean, anytime I'm out telling you, you don't want to talk about new list, you say, what does the low list have? And this is not a situation of the PNC saying so, or the opposition. This is a situation where the European Union says so, the very people who came here and put them in office, where the Caribbean group who came here to count the election and help in that process says you mustn't go back to election without another changes the system. Yeah, the PPP don't want change because guess what? They want to be a majority, but behave like a minority, but behave like a majority because they want to vote for the people that got abroad. It's like if they don't want to believe that the people has gone and they don't have the same, they don't have this, maybe they have an interest, but can't be the same interest as we have lived here. And so they are doing all kind of manipulation to let that happen. I am not saying for one moment. Remember, I wrote a book in 1965. I made it quite clear that the PPP, PNC rig elections. They used to write a quote, cover it up in brown paper and read it in Congress. So I am not, I know pretty well. So I'm not saying that they're re-elections. I'm saying the PPP just joined the game. But once the Barnum game was a game about geopolitics, Barnum only exists in politics so long as communism existed. The minute communism gone, they came and threw him out of office. I couldn't do what he liked. And they gave Jagan pre-communist chances of making, of joining together. They offer him shared governance. You ask Kwayana was the man I got that from. Since then, they talk, because they were in Cyprus, and they see what's happening there. So it's not just a simple matter of say rigging election, all sort of all. So what you have now is a government that's doing a lot of illegality because international, the UN convention and institution dealing with ethnic minorities say you gotta protect them, you gotta do all sort of things for them. Instead of they're trying to destroy them. They're trying to destroy actors. I mean, they're supposed to, and yet They are going to come and tell you that you are breaking the rules if you do X. And they are buying people to do X. And once you buy people to do X, you're destroying the ethical foundations of the system. And people believe anything you can do to get money. That is what politicians do. It is that we are facing here. This is a major problem we are facing. And that's why the last week, because in the context of fear, the only way to get rid of this is to get rid of the context of fear. Regardless of who wins, Black people shouldn't have to sit down and go through what they're going through. Or the Indians wake up one morning and the PNC set up all sort of committees to deal with sugar, knock off 7,000 Indians on Christmas Day, in Christmas time. It shouldn't have to happen. And that is why that is the context of fear. It is so fearful that would happen that let's go to election, go no, but you ain't getting many Indians, no substantial amount of Indians vote. So you can talk about Exxon and corruption as long as you like. Well, I've told you this before, you're not. Because are you better than the PPP for me? You understand? That is the issue. And unless we face it and come to what Nigel Hughes was saying, determine in some fashion how we can protect our people after an election in a sensible way. Well, it's the context of fear. You can't be that. You gotta run with it.
But you were around the PNC, and so you know something about how the party operates. Of course, now we are in 2024, and things may have changed. But do you think that instinct is still there in the PNC, that they're gonna get Indian votes if they behave a certain way?
But they're rigging election too. You understand? It's not now who get more of the other person's vote, is who can rig better. You understand? This is no longer why you think they are so minimal about any change about the electoral system. It is not who can. They talk like that because they must. If they win, they gotta say, "Look, I win because the other man voted for me," and all of that. But that's what it is. It's not about winning whenever. They're not stupid. They know they ain't getting no substantial Indian vote sufficiently, at least not sufficiently to rule half the Indian country, or vice versa. What do you think their PPP running up and down helter-skelter doing all sort of nonsense, all the place to get Black people? Don't you think they are not expecting Black people to vote for them? They are saying these things we have done has made them vote for us, and we have won the elections based on African votes.
No. The reason I'm laughing is last night I was making the exact point that the PPP not interested in Black people vote. What they're doing is they want to control and suppress. They want to suppress resistance among Black people and to have Black people not trust their own leaders. And that is the grand plan, rather than trying to get vote. And our friend Rafi Dev on the other side gets angry at you and me because we have seen through that game, and we are saying, look, this thing about crossover vote, it's nonsense.
Nonsense.
You see, Henry, since Nigel Hughes became the leader of the AFC, it's not just conflict of interest that has been a thing. It's about the possibility of him being a quote-unquote consensus candidate for the opposition. In fact, his election has now raised this debate. Everywhere I go, people are asking about the consensus candidate. Is it Nigel? Is it going to be Aubrey? Is it going to be somebody else from the PNC? Is that a positive development?
It would be. Well, let me put it this way. it would be a positive development if, in a sense, the context was different. Because it will happen now. You got a whole thing about conflict of interest. And I think any sensible person can tell you that is not in conflict of interest. I don't know who can come up and say there's no conflict of interest there. Indeed, some has gone so far, which I don't believe to say is even conflict of interest with with Exxon, but he not no, so far as I concerned, he has no conflict of interest with Exxon. But so you have a major from that Nigel would have to overtake. I don't think he can overtake it. And secondly, Aubrey Norton went to the election. He won a free election. He mobilized people across the country. Why is it that there are? I want to just dismiss Aubrey Norton. And you see, when people do this, it means I think it's the same old people in the PNC doing just that. Yeah, it's the same old group. They're now they're losing internally, they're trying to bring external pressure. And I think I know why all this is happening. I think
you want to share? You want to share it with us?
I don't think it's something to share at this point in time. But the point is, well, why this man? Well, he come to the PNC. He's a PNC born there almost. He worked all his life there. You can say what you like about him. We were there when he's a constitutional far, and don't bother with it. I mean, I said this is madness, but that's not the point. He's there, and if you corral him with good people, he can. I mean, why is this thing about Norton up to this day? Nobody can tell me clearly what is the problem with Norton. He went, he worked, he did marvelously at a local government election that everybody, half the other side who would saying all this thing about him stayed home or hung around somewhere else. So effectively, I'm saying it is morally wrong to do it. And everything isn't politics. Everything is not politics. You can't do anything and say it's politics. You have to have some moral standing here. This man has worked. You can't just say, get rid of him because we don't like him. Why you don't like? What you don't like? Let's go Bamba Mali. Let's go Bamba Mali.
Yeah, and if Burnham goes to were alive and he go to Bamba Mali, they would lift him up on their shoulder and say, "What a hero he is!
Yes, of
a
course,
man of the people, a man of the people." You know, I remember Burnham used as a small boy. Burnham would come into Buxton, you know, and them big men would engage you, and he would tell them, "You all go to Sydney King, go to Kwayana. He's Ayuba Ilegiayo." And they would cuss you back and tell you if he had, he would have give away. And so, and he would cuss them. And we as little children thought, wow, here was Burnham, you know, duking it out with Tate and them big men in the village. He was seen as a man of the people there. Yes. But I suppose if Aubrey go and abuse out with people in a community, it's going to be a problem. But let me take you down memory lane. You know, the PNC, obviously, eventually was a coming together of the old UDP with John Carter and the LCP people. And of course, there's always been that presence of the black, what we call redskin middle class in the PNC. Some people seem to think that Hoyt resurrected it after he came to power. Is the question of class and color still a real issue in our politics, especially on the side of African Guyanese?
You know, Doctor, he told me personally, because we had like a good relationship. And he asked me, to do something almost here. So we were at coffee. We went to the graduation of coffee. I wasn't sure. And he said, I want to speak to you, young man. He said, you think I'm a stupid old man, you know. I said, no, sir. I said, well, where you get that one? Even if I thought I could say yes, but I didn't think so, you know. But I said, no. Where you get that? What got that? He says, you think I follow every word that the leader says and all of that? I said, Doc, I mean, I have not thought about it, but I mean, we'll be better. He said, let me tell you why. And he went on to tell me a story that Burnham Nady left after the PNC refused to try to join with the UDP. They were more socialist oriented than John Carter and his whole group. They see us totally middle class, and they refused to join. They are refusing. They did it apparently in 1961. They did it when they went at Burnhamite.
57.
And Burnham said,
yes.
Burnham said, if this happen again, I go in and live in Ghana. I go on. A doctor told me this. I wasn't there. He said, I am going, if this happen, because this is electoral, this is competitive electoral politics. And I'd pack my bag and go and live in Ghana and make some money and do some now. And he said, and the rest is history. Because of born.
Yeah.
You know, and so but those were old days. Today, I think the dynamics are a bit different. And I think that you will see play out in another couple of months. But I think it's it's not.
But what are the institutional forces? I mean, we know that people challenge Norton for the leadership and so on,
Yeah.
and that is what is on the surface. Are there institutional forces at work that borders on class?
But well, there is this. I think they're using, class is what they talk about exit. That it's not really class, because if you want to see the amount of middle class people at Bamba Valley, the truth is they're only using it as against Norton as an excuse. That's why I don't think it's a big crime. But I think it's a problem. I thought you there in the political, I there home, you know, I be home till afternoon when I go and drink 2 beers. You should know what that is not the issue. That is not the issue. The issue has a lot. Anyway, anyway, let's go.
Back off, left off. Good evening to all of you joining us. Of course, when we have Jeffrey here, you know, we get some tidbits, and Jeffrey's stories on target. I remember being on a television program in Washington, D.C. Years ago, and afterwards I got a call from John Carter, Sir John, and he said, Mr. Hines, I would like to invite you to tea. Because I want to tell you about how the UDP and the PNC came together. And of course, you know, I don't even drink tea. But anyhow, I went and and Lady Carter served us tea, and he said it was CLR James who came to do some lectures at Queen's College. And CLR said he's not leaving Guyana until the UDP and the PNC come together, because he had pointed to the consolidation on the other side of the ethnic divide. And he said CLR James convinced him, because he said there was resistance in his group against Burnham, who was not seen as real Redskin middle class, right? And CLR James was able to convince the Burnham side and his side, and as Dr. Reed said, the rest is history. What he also said is that the PNC was keen on joining with DeGar, and I later found that to be true. The PNC really, it was DeGar who they wanted to be part of the original PNC. you came across that tidbit?
But Degar was necessary for the PNC. Degar was the Americans' man. And Degar was there to see that Burnham stay in the capitalist mode. We know that. If you read some of the old documents, you'll see they're saying, but he has Degar with him, and therefore he's a good man, and therefore and this and thing. But Burnham, when asked, I know Vincent, go and ask Robert or Paris or whatever. When Burnham decided he's going to have a collision with Degar, the YSM went to I was never in the YSM, so I don't know. I can only get this from sources. And the YSM went and talked to Burnham, and Burnham gave them this, thing by saying essentially, I can always get rid of Degar. He ain't got no vote, but I can never get rid of JD if I die.
Well, my elder said that he had gotten word that Burnham wanted to allow Jagan to go in as a minority government and then move a vote of confidence against him. And he said rain was falling, he put on his long boots, and he get brick on them by from Buxton. He went down to Congress Place, and he went in and he told Burnham, he said, them people out there in the rain, you think they want a minority government? Give the guy what you want and go into government. And apparently that pushed Burnham in a certain direction.
Yeah, because the YSM thought that Jagan was the best bet. Young people.
Exactly.
That, Jagan is the best bet. We want to come together and all of that. They said Jagan is the best bet. But Jagan was never really the best bet, because Jagan had already written a letter and say he want people, he gonna carry Ghana and the Caribbean into the communist camp, and the Americans got hold of it. The CIA got hold of it. I mean, these are interesting.
Good evening to you. Yeah, Colin, Lady Sarah Lou, yes, that was her name. Serve the tea, and I grew up as a small boy, but this film star.
Yes.
And so it was so the first time I was meeting her and meeting John. And yeah, she did serve us tea. But John Carter really had a lot of information. I don't think he wrote an autobiography. And I don't know if anybody who worked on his biography, but because his story go right back to when he was secretary of the LCP in England, and he really talked to me about some of those issues. So, Dr. Jeffrey, before we go, I know you keep in touch with what's happening on the trade union scene. And you must have seen in the news the recent proposal by the GTU. Do you think there are any legs there?
Well, it depends. When you say recent, if it's less than a couple of days,
a couple of days ago, they suggest 39%. They agreed to 2024. They have put 39% on the table, and there are some murmurs that the government may agree to that.
The GTU moved from a position where the courts determined that the government did not follow the collective bargaining process particularly, and therefore the court sent them back to do X. I got my own position on, well, you know me, right? So the court sent them back. There and the government breakdown. I don't know. What's the logical move from there?
Go back to the court.
Instead of that, from what I see, they go back on strike. I called some people. I said, this is not serious. I said, the government, and you follow, you must go back to the courts unless something happened that I don't know. Why are you going back on strike? The few people I know and ask me, I tell them, as you were asking me. I said, the court has seized this issue. Why are you giving the court a letter from seizing this issue? Unless somebody says to me that, oh, they got some kind of thing from some lawyers that they can't go back to court. I said, really? I said, well, that might. I asked a man who went back to court, who we all know, but I would not say his name. He says to me, that was their next move, go back to court.
Yeah.
And let the court deal with it. When you break down again now on the conciliation or wheresoever they sent you back, because remember in the first case, what they do, they send you back to the government. So now they might send you, say, take the next step, conciliation. If you break down again, you go back. If the government don't want to go to the next step, voluntary arbitration, go back. This is a no-lose situation for you. No-lose. Because effectively, when you go back and they're going to say, well, we don't think we can do anything, or they're going to say, go to arbitration. If you go to arbitration and the arbitrator give you 1 cent, you can't lose. You fought to the end. Now what it looks like? What does it look like? That they lose.
That you've lost everything. Yeah.
So when I don't, because
No, but your point is well taken, that tactically they may have dropped the ball, and I can't understand, because the lawyers were there, and lawyers obviously know about the courts, and a lawyer first instinct is the court, and I couldn't understand why they had not gone back to the court, because the court was there as an insurance, but I was not behind those walls, and so I don't know what transpired. What transpired there? Any thoughts, Henry, on the impact of the assassination attempt on Trump on American politics?
Well, of course, it's going to certainly solidify, for the time being, certainly solidify Trump's vote. I mean, Trump has got 40%. The 40% of white people in America voted for him, no matter what you do. 40% of the white Americans vote. You just gotta see, no matter he right, he can go and shoot somebody in Times Square, and it wouldn't matter. They're voting for Trump. So effectively, they will become more solidified. But, at the back of my mind, I think that 40% is still not enough to do that. Of course, he's going to get one. He's not going to get all 40% anyway. I just said so. Effectively, that, well, my hope is that he loses. I mean, who's sensible to want Trump to lose? Yes, effectively. But I don't think it will affect Guyana much.
You don't think so?
I think there is, not even he would be able to destroy across party consensus on Guyana and countries like Guyana. Not even he. Pompeo came, and guess who he came with? The Carter Center. And get rid of what she did. So don't think that there is a kind of consensus about what happens to all kinds of countries, and Guyana is one of them. So, well, that's double speak. But so I don't think it would matter very much in terms of America. Hoping it would.
I suppose lots of Guyanese are a little bit weary of a Trump presidency, given what happened in 2020. Well, a lot of people on the opposition side,
Yeah. I mean, you must feel it, because Trump is a right-wing extraordinary. He seems to have no idea. He's a pragmatist. He seems not to care anything about the idea, but he must care about international stability. And if stability and on the continent and all that. And he's not, I don't think anybody would allow him to destroy what was near 60. You think they didn't know oil being here before Exxon came? But you think anybody was coming here for oil once they control the oil in Maduro's land? All the Arnaco beast. And I think Exxon still got the rig there. They moved it. So it's a different kind of game.
Dr. Henry Jeffrey, as usual, as you all have been saying here, David Modest, I'm going to deal with some of those questions that you raised later on in the week. And as most of you are saying here, the program is very interesting. Stay a little bit longer. And we have stayed a little bit longer, but we have to let Jeffrey go. Dr. Jeffrey, is always a pleasure to have you on, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And as usual, there will be lots to talk about.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, audience.
And thank you all very much for staying with us another evening. We continue to do this because it is necessary. We have got to mobilize. We've got to organize, because it's the only way out. And we've got to fight on all fronts. Fight, as you know, what the old days say, fight in the sea, fight in the air, fight on land. You know, we have to fight. We have to fight. We cannot give up the fight. There are things that we have to do. We have to prepare for elections, etc., etc. But we can't make that. We can't make election the substitute for fighting. We've got to be in fighting spirit. Fighting spirit. They're trying to force on us these nonsense like crossover votes and all those kinds of things. They must not determine reality for us. We must determine our reality. And we have to fight, because ultimately, we've got to break this system up. This system that is premised on discrimination, on inequality. We've got to change up the system and to make sure that elections lead to an outcome that all of us can live with. All of us can live with. And so therefore, it is important that if must we prepare to engage the norms, to engage the institutions. We have to try to change the institutions to make them work for our people. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled by this nonsense about crossover votes. They're not interested in crossover votes. They have their votes from three sources. They're going to get their votes from their constituency, which they're barricading. They're barricading their constituency so that we cannot go in there. They're going to get their votes there. They're going to carry their share of the Amerindians' vote, because Amerindians share their votes around. They're going to carry their share. They're going to target the immigrant votes. And most importantly, they're already eyeing up how they can steal 5 seats if we don't have a clean voters list and biometrics. So they got the 4 ways. I said 3. They got the 4 ways where they intend to get the votes from, and they want to get us into this false sense of security. So we will abandon our base and go searching for crossover vote. You don't take fire stick at night for go looking where you can see plane during the day. You don't do that. They want to take us off our game. They want us to ignore our base and to try to go and get crossover votes. And I am saying that's a no. And I'm going to argue that every night. Our strategy has to be premised on our people. This election has to be a referendum on what you are doing to Black people. And we're not trying to get crossover votes. We're trying to get Black people to stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself. That's what you all got to do. Stand up for yourself. And you all got to be ready to fight. You all have to be ready to fight. Fight on all fronts. fight on the electoral front, fight on the protest front. You all have to move, because this election is not about them, because they're already messing up the country. They've already messed the country up. They're already giving away and coveting all the riches in this country. All the riches in this country. And so this election has to be about Black people. About Black people and our existence in this country. And nobody's going to fight for us. We got to fight for ourselves. And we have to arm ourselves with the necessary information and reasoning. We have to arm ourselves. If they want, like I said last night, if they wanted Black votes, they would treat the teacher nice. From teachers alone, you got 18,000 teachers. And if they wanted Black votes, 18,000 is almost 4 seats. Almost 4 seats. If they really wanted to see, they would treat the teachers, but they're kicking the teachers, starving the teachers, which means they want to subdue Black people. That's what they want to do. They want to beat us into the ground. And we cannot allow that to happen. We cannot allow that to happen. Our Indian brothers and sisters are not in a position to fight for us, because they themselves are in prison by their own party that they voted. And so we have to lead our own fight. We have to lead our own fight. We can't depend on other people to fight for us. And so I'm saying to you all African Guyanese, steel yourself. STEEL, steel yourself. Because nobody else is going to do that for you. You have to fight for your existence in Guyana. We are being ruled by reckless people who are not concerned about the safety of our country. They're prepared to do anything to put their claws on all that money every day, and they get some Black people who are doing their biddings. I heard somebody tell me about 8 or 9 ministers in PPP government that are Black, and oh, that's a good thing. They're Black only in skin color. Nothing else about them is Black. Nothing else about them is Black beyond skin color. Their mind is not Black. Their thought process is not Black. Their ideology is not Black. In fact, they hate their own Blackness. That's why they're there. And so therefore, we cannot depend on them to fight for us. We have got to fight for ourselves. And if we are going to fight for ourselves, we have to join our hands and our hearts. We have to stop tearing down one another. We can be critical. We can be critical of each other. We must be critical of our leaders. Even if we love them, we must be critical. But we must do so in a comradely way, not in the nasty way that seemed to raise its head recently. I am pleading with you all. I'm pleading with you all. Let's do it the right way. And don't be swayed. Don't be afraid to tell your leaders when they're going off script, oh no, oh no, oh no. I've said I love our Indian brothers and sisters who are in the PNC and the AFC and the WPA. I love them because they're taking a chance. They're risking their lives to join an opposition party. But when it comes to bringing votes, they have to go into the Indian community and fight for votes there. Fight for votes there. This whole thing about bringing our Indian brothers and sisters to speak in Black communities, no, they're most effective in going into the communities, the Indian Guyanese communities, and to convince them, who better to do it but them, but them. That is not divisive. That is common sense. That is common sense. And so therefore, I am sticking to that we can win this election, one, if we get a clean voters list, biometrics, and we get the staff of GCOM to be fair, to be neutral. Those are the 3 problem areas. The staff of GCOM, which is now become pro-PPP, the voters list, biometrics. If we get those 3 things, we would have gone more than 75% of the way towards a fair playing field. And then once the playing field is fair, then we need an extra 2-3 seats. We can get it from our own people. Our own people. We got to go out there and reason with people. We got to go out there and mix it up with them. Our people are angry. Some of them are very angry. I've met people who tell me, man, I can't understand why Norton takes such a soft position. And Norton has to address that. He has to address it. But we are not going to cuss Norton. We should not be cussing him. You see? So please, I am pleading with you all, stop the tearing down and let us hold our hands together and get this job done. Because the very existence of this group of people whose foreparents were brought here against their will. They came here and they humanized this place. They humanized this place. I hear people talk about how Indians have fed the Caribbean. But the land that they grow the food on, who dig the canals, who cut down the trees, whose hands? I mean, they always quote George Lamin, who said the Indians had fed us and so on. And that's not the only thing Lamin said. That's not the only thing Lamin said. Whose hands felled the trees, tamed the wild coast, so that our Indian brothers could come here and do agriculture. Who was doing agriculture before our Indian brothers came here? Let's talk fairness. Let's talk fairness. Let's talk fairness. And so, therefore, I'm saying to you all, as African people, this has to be about you all. And if they want to take race off the table, every time they take it off the table, I put it back on the table. Because when they take race off the table, they take black people cries off the table. They hide black people woes. They suffocate all our travails in this country. And so every time they take it off the table, I put it back. I put it back. As I said, if they were going in and licking down homes in Port Morant and Enmore, and as the same way they're licking down homes in Mocha and Hillfoot, I can't talk race then. That's I will have to talk class. But when they're licking down homes only among Africans, that is race. And you can't watch me and tell me that is not race. David, why don't you talk about the youth vote? And why don't you talk about multiracial? I am a multiracial person. Multiracialism is our aspiration. I believe in power sharing. I believe ultimately the PNC and the PPP and all we got share power and national government. That is my aspiration. That is my aspiration. But you're not going to win an election with multiracialism. You're not going to win an election with multiracialism. Multiracialism is something that one has to constantly work. And if the PPP is saying that they don't want to share power, then where does that leave us? We then have to get power, and God forbid that when we get it, we have to be man and woman enough to say we have it, and we are still going to put the olive branch out there and ask the other side to share it. Let them say no. Let them say no. But if they're saying no now, then we have to have power. I said in 2020 that despite my disappointment with the coalition government, I went with the coalition government again, the coalition parties, not government. I went with the coalition parties again because they were doing something that the PPP wasn't doing. They were coming together, various parties coming together, and that is always superior than one party believing they got all the answers to the question. Ultimately, That is where we have to go. But where things stand, we have to win the election. And we can't win a thief in election. You can't win, we can't win a thief in election. And so we have to fight to make the election machinery fair. And once it is fair, and in anticipation of it being fair, we have to start mobilizing every single African vote. Every single African vote must be mobilized. Each of you must become an activist. There is rolling registration. Get our people there to register. Get our people. And once they register, we got to get them out to vote. But we got to put something before them. We got to put something before them. We are saying in the WPA, give the people a cash transfer. We are saying $1 million. They may come to you all and give you all a little small piece. We're not talking about small piece. We are talking about give you all share of the money. They're taking most of it and spending it on road and spending it on this. Give you that you can spend on your house. You can spend on your business. You can spend on your children. Money that you didn't have before. So I'm saying, let's do it together. I'll see you all tomorrow night when we'll continue this conversation.